All right, friends, thanks for coming again. And if you didn't get the short link, it's bit.ly/California Chat Live, all caps. And we are just some of the moderators for California Ed Chat. Right here we have Ryan Archer from San Marcos area in Southern California. Woo woo! And we have Jessica Pack here, right here from Palm Springs. And myself, Joanne Fox. I'm from San Diego as well. And we also have David Terrio, the guy from Huntington Beach, and Carl, he's up in the Bay Area. John Stevens, he's in the LA area. Sam, is he out there still, or did he run off? Sam's from the Bay Area. We have JR, he's coming here to co-mod, but he's doing a double session right now. That's how rad he is. We've got Holly Clark, who comes in when she can. She has one of the busiest schedules I've ever seen. So that is the founding group of California Ed Chat, and of course, we wouldn't be who we are without all of you who join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. But why do we do California Ed Chat? Our sole mission was to create a place for California teachers specifically to come together and to build a community where we can have discussions that relate to what we're doing. And we have teachers, we have administrators, we have board members, we have superintendents that join in on the chat, and it's just a great place for us to all come together.
So when we were first starting to discuss the idea of California Ed Chat, one of the ways that we got the word out about wanting to meet together, wanting to connect, was to produce this short video that kind of shows the value of California Ed Chat. So we're just going to share that with you super briefly.
When you're a teacher, collaboration isn't just about working with the people at your school. It's about connecting with educators across the country, across the continent, and maybe even across the globe. Twitter has changed the way we teach, the way our students learn, and the way we share both. Sometimes, though, it's nice to talk with folks who are working in the same educational climate you are. And for teachers in California, that's where California Ed Chat comes in. Every Sunday night, join the Twitter chat for California educators by California educators. While everyone's welcome, we'll discuss the issues through the lenses of education as it exists in our state. For topics relevant to the West Coast at a Pacific Coast friendly time, join California Ed Chat on Sunday evenings at 8.
So this is our California Ed Chat live and in-person edition, and the whole goal here is to actually give us time to talk to each other face-to-face instead of hiding behind 140 characters. You're going to have a lot more characters than that today. And how we're going to organize this is we're going to break off into smaller groups, and we will pose the questions to you guys, and then within your group, we'd love for you guys to spend about 5 minutes talking about the question, and then we'll give you a cue as to when it would be a good time to tweet out your answer. But we really would like to see the face-to-face interactions today. That is one of the great advantages of having a California Ed Chat Live. So last year, we actually formed groups that were really huge, and we just didn't feel like the conversation was an easy flowing type of conversation because of how big it was. So we're recommending if everyone could break into groups of like 5 to 8 people, that would be a really good size to have a good conversation. And then after the conversation happens and after you're able to tweet, we'll also go around and share some of our responses to the questions to the whole group with the microphone.
So one thing to think about if you're going to tweet is make sure that you do the hashtag Q16 and the hashtag CAEdChat. Last year, Joanne had to get a little slide there that some of us make mistakes and we put CAEdCat. So make sure you get that H in there because it happens sometimes. So our topic today is going to be on student-centered learning. And that's why we really want to get you guys together to talk about this. It's really hard sometimes on our chats on Sunday nights to throw a question out there and you may or may not read it correctly. And we kind of finagle wording every week trying to figure out to make sure that that's going to be what we want to ask. But now, hopefully in this setting, you guys can actually talk and then tweet. And then I know there are some people that told me that they were going to tweet to California Ed Chat during this time. So make sure you do hashtag California Ed Chat and also do Q16, so we'll get like a double whammy there. So here's our first question. Are you guys all ready to be California Ed Chat live?
Are you around a group? Some of you are far off by yourselves. Come in and join some friends and take a minute to introduce yourselves as well, because that's kind of our California Ed Chat tradition.
Also, we want to encourage a little rebellion right now, so maybe some joyful rebellion like we heard about this morning. And we want you to go ahead and feel free to move your chairs. We will move them back, so don't panic, anybody in production. But it might help you if you're face-to-face with people. So let's move some furniture and maybe 5 to 6 people in a group.
All right, so once you've introduced, we're going to put the first question up here. Take good 5 minutes to chat about it. Q1, what are the hallmarks of a student-centered classroom in your perception?
All right, everybody. Would anyone be willing to go ahead and share what your response to question 1 would be? Yeah, I'm gonna grab Dustin right now. So, go ahead.
Do I have to stand up? Can I get my picture with you? Sure. So we talked a lot about how a lot of student choice, a lot of student voice, essential questions. We got to get students to realize that, oh yeah, look at that. Students have to realize that their whole career of being asked questions is not necessarily the best way of doing things. They have to learn how to ask those questions themselves.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Dustin. Anybody else? JoJo's on that side.
Right here.
We're the Fluffy Unicorns group. My name is Brent, and we talked about noisiness and how loud classes are, and how one of the hallmarks for us is if the class is loud and if there's a good conversation going on. And it's really hard to talk with the split-second delay. Anyways, so we talked about the noisiness of class and students being kind of so involved with themselves that they are not really been paying attention to the fact that there's learning going on and that things are so loud and involved with them individually that it seems kind of like a chaos. But if you're paying attention to what the conversation is actually happening, then it's you can see that they're working on really understanding the work that they're at.
I agree. All right.
Awesome. That's good. Q2.
Question 2 is, what roadblocks prevent the shift from teacher-centered classrooms to student-centered learning? This would be the time to go ahead and tweet out one of the great thoughts that you heard from your colleagues. Be able to share the conversation that you had in your group with the rest of the crowd.
All right, I hope you guys had an opportunity to share, or tweet, sorry. Would anybody be willing to go ahead and talk about some of the thoughts that you guys had a discussion about?
Hi, my name's Caitlin Morgan, and we were just talking about it's typically the status quo in education that prevents that change of, you were taught that way and I'm fine, so why should I change it? Whether it's content over, I lost my train of thought, content over skills or that sort of thing, just the status quo.
Thank you so much.
My big thing, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine, is rows. Rows in a classroom all face the front of the room, and therefore everybody's view is centered on the front. And one of the things I'll compliment you guys on is, as soon as you wanted to change how we were interacting in this, you told us to move things around, and we're now in groups, and we're interacting with each other. And that was a roadblock that I think that you guys got over really easily, really quickly. But to me, that's the That's my number one roadblock. I walk into a classroom, I see rows, I want to turn around and walk out. Even if they're one-to-one Chromebooks, like in our district, it was rows. I gave them all Chromebooks. Now they're in rows with Chromebooks, doing the exact same thing.
Thank you.
I just want to add to what he just said about the rows. We were just discussing how our old school desks make it hard to even move them into groups because our desks are so clunky and difficult to move around. So when we want them to collaborate, there's always somebody who's left out.
Okay, so here's Q3. How might you transform your classroom environment to be more student-centered? We kind of just talked about this a little bit, so we're going to have to go deeper. Would anyone like to share out their answer for this question for Q3?
So we talked about replacing desks with tables and promoting inquiry and nurturing collaboration.
Great answer.
We were talking a lot about just some of those different types of things where it is that we're talking about furniture and just how to transform that space, really thinking about putting the students in charge of how they're using that space and really being mindful of the different types of things that we do in that space. It just really depends on, this is kind of weird, just kind of talking back over in the middle of nowhere, people. But
I'll continue. So we we were basically talking about different types of furniture, kind of as a run on question 2, because the shapes of the furniture and the modular units and things like that can really allow for students to do breakout groups or to move together into small pairs or to work individually if they need to. But not only having just desks, but having stations or we were discussing how sofas are not a good idea. The 4-letter L word, lice.
Oh, mine's leather.
But everything else that is plastic and metal is probably okay.
So, right, let's move on to question 4. Da-da-da-da. So, since this is a tech conference, how might technology help support your journey towards student-centered learning? Okay, this is tweet time, so go ahead and tweet something to the hashtag. If you already have, that's fine. We'd love for you to share anything that you may have had a discussion about in this question.
Something that's been bothering me in class for a long time is that total student engagement and getting these students who don't seem to be participating in class to participate. And since introducing technology into our class, I've all of a sudden seen this like revolution. These students I've never heard from before are able to participate through shared docs, giving opinions on forms, today's meet. All of these things are really helping to make them a part of our class.
Anybody else?
Oh!
so we really had the discussion, a really good discussion, where it is that there are some amazing teachers out there who are taking the step to providing those opportunities for their students to be able to share and to be able to have that space, to be able to make it an audience beyond just us. And I think that that's one of the things that we can definitely do as educators. Share.
We have a 5th grade teacher in our district, and he has a classroom that he calls the hot classroom. Every single thing on the wall, periodic table, his writing wall, everything's tied to an augmented reality trigger through Erasma. So the kids are learning on their own, and they're actually creating the triggers. And then in the corner, he also has a green screen studio that he went to the 99-cent store, bought a green tablecloth, put up on the wall, and then he uses TouchCast. We're a 1-to-1 iPad district. So he uses TouchCast to create green screen videos. And I was sharing how one of the students, she was very shy and didn't really know how to project her voice well within the videos. Her homework was to go home, watch real newscasts, learn from the reporters, and now she's coming back and she's producing most of the videos within the class and working with her classmates, directing things. So having that freedom in the classroom really empowers students to create, using different media.
So we do a lot of screencasting, and I love it for physics because they take pictures of their lab and then they explain and draw arrows for forces, and I get those shy kids who will not go up in front, but they'll do a screencast. And so they're still doing the skills and building the confidence, but they don't have to go up in front of everyone.
So this is TweetDeck. We wanted to share some tips on how to sort of follow the chat as it's happening. And someone actually is going to share their experience with using TweetDeck.
Hi, everyone. I'm kind of new to Twitter, but my first California Ed Chat, somebody told me to get on TweetDeck, and it made the experience a whole lot better because with TweetDeck, you can follow multiple things at once. I was getting really overwhelmed trying to look at the whole Twitter feed, and with TweetDeck, you can separate it out. So in one column right now, I have hashtag California Ed Chat. In another column, I have all my mentions. So if somebody talks to me, I can track that and then respond back to them. In another column, I have my user tweet, so I can see what I actually said previously, and I can see it all in one screen. And I also recently learned how to set up timed tweets on TweetDeck, which is really cool. Still, that's TBD. I'm working on that, but it's been really helpful. So
You want to be careful though with timed tweets too. Like don't over time tweet. Like I've been at a restaurant with someone and we were doing California Ed Chat as a group, and they were saying, "When's that first question coming? When's the first?" Normally it's out by now. A lot of times as we moderate, we will put the question out based on the feel of the chat. So it's not like we always put, at 8:14, here comes Q2. It's not that way. So don't. And we can tell when you've timed your chats because you're at the beach. It's like all of a sudden you have A3 coming and we're still on A2. So just be careful with that one.
Is Madi out there? Hi, Madi. And so Madi says 2 columns on TweetDeck. And here's why. I have 2 columns open when I'm in a California Ed Chat because I get really behind trying to read what everybody's saying. So what I do is 1 column I have scrolled down a little bit. So here's the top. I scroll it down a little bit so that this is my place of where I'm actually reading in the chat. And I keep this column all the way to the top, which keeps it a live feed. You'll see it's changing while this one stays the same. So this way I can kind of keep up with where is everybody in the chat. Oh, they're already on Q3. I'm still reading Q2 responses and replying to them there. So there's some other things you can do. You can change some settings. So if you don't like seeing all of the retweets, you can turn those off. There's a lot of different things you can do if you play around with the settings on your columns. But all you do is you go and you create a new column. And you can see I have all of my chats that I attend all the way across here.
Joanne, another good one to have on there with California Ed Chat is your notifications. So if someone tweets directly to you, you can see that because it may zip by. If you've been on California Ed Chat before, we've kind of described it before as like a fire hose. It's just this crazy amount of tweets sometimes. So if you want to put notifications up, you can see who tweets at you also.
Okay.
If the multi-column look is a little overwhelming for you at first, TweetChat is also a good third-party client, and it streams everything into a single column, which is kind of where I started baby step-wise. I've graduated to TweetDeck, but it took me a while to get there, so that might be a more comfortable place if you're visually overwhelmed as well. Oh, and this is TweetChat. It starts with a hashtag, so you just type in the hashtag you want to follow, and then it links to your Twitter account so that you have permission to post through this client. And it hashtags automatically for you, which is super nice too, because sometimes, we talked already about how you can mistype Cal Ed Chat. So it's nice to that. It just kind of adds it on its own.
I love TweetChat because it does the auto hashtag, but you don't see all the images either. A lot of people now are tweeting with images, and TweetChat doesn't give you those images.
And sometimes you're missing some of the retweets too. So you kind of have to weigh the benefits of both. And I think ultimately TweetDeck is a little bit easier once you feel like you've got the chat flow down. So did you have a comment too?
Yeah, hold on. I have always a problem when I go to a chat. I can't find where the question is. like I'll see all the answers and I can never find the question, so I don't know how to answer. Is there an easy way to find the question?
A lot of times, not for all chats, but for most chats, we try to publish the questions maybe a day in advance so that people can, kind of peruse them ahead of time. But there are a couple scheduled tweets that come out throughout each chat that just kind of, share the link to the doc. So what you would be looking for is a link to the public doc, and then once you're in the chat, you can have that doc open and then have your third-party client running and then your regular Twitter if you like it.
One way is actually if you whoever's moderating that week, just click on their handle and then you can search through their tweets, their feed, and then you'll be able to see actually the link to the document. Here, Craig.
So real quick, Craig, before this goes away, if you're in tweet chat, when we put it out as Q1, it highlights it in yellow. The problem becomes when other people answer us with a Q1 also. So make sure when you're answering, you do A1 instead of a Q1, because then it gets confusing for me. I'm like, what? I didn't put a question out.
Okay, so on the Google Doc that we shared with you, we have sent out a Google form. Looks like this. So if you could just fill that out, put your name and your Twitter handle on it, and you have access to the spreadsheet so that you can follow more people here today. There they are. Thanks for coming. Any last little bit, JR?
When we started this whole Twitter chat, we didn't realize how powerful it was going to be of a communication tool and bringing teachers together. It's been around for I don't know how many years now.
I think two and a half.
Like about 3 years now, right? Isn't it? Yeah, California. It's been around for 3 years now, and we even had conversations. Would this conversation continue on? And I feel like it's gotten stronger, actually. Even the chats and the questions are a little bit more in depth, and the conversations and even actually, I'll be honest, the relationships that you make with the people in the chat. Like, I didn't know Dustin before California Ed Chat, and I feel like he's my Baldy friend now. So it's awesome. So, yes, and so the other thing too that we wanted to invite you guys to do is we would love for you to be able to co-moderate with us on a week. So if you're interested and you happen to have a topic in mind, you can contact any one of us, and we'll set it up. We love working with other people, so don't think that we're just we actually hate being by ourselves, running the chat, because it's really great to be able to bounce ideas off of just what Joanne was saying earlier. It's really great to be able to bounce ideas off of other people. And always
Jessica's by herself this Sunday. So anyone who wants to co-mod, come talk to her.
Oh,
Boom.
Craig, nice.
And all that's required of you is maybe a week before, we'll shoot a Google Doc to you and we just brainstorm tons of questions, and then we finalize the ones that we think are the best of the ones we brainstormed, and then we put them in an order that makes sense, and then we make a public doc to share out. And then you're there that evening tweeting with us. Sometimes we run a Google Hangout so that we can actually talk to each other, and we just take turns. One person Q1, the next person Q2. So come talk to us afterwards. And any last little bits, because Mike wants me to remind everyone that
at 4:45 in this very room, we have the FCC commissioner, I think, coming to speak. So just like we wanted to keep you guys student-centered, and you do that in your classroom, a lot of times before the kids leave that day, they have to put their chairs up or do whatever. We said we would come around real quick and put the chairs back, but will you help us out and get them back in rows as much as possible? And we highly encourage you to hang out and stay for the 4:45 session.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you around here and on Sunday at 8 p.m.